Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special Comic Art Spotlight. I'm not going to be doing my regular Thursday comic art update that everybody's used to. I'm going to start that Friday, tomorrow evening at 9 p.m., just so we can focus more time today on the interview with Vincent. So before we get started, it wouldn't be proper if I didn't mention the passing of Richard Corben. For me, he's just he was a huge influence on wanting me to start collecting comic books when I was young, going into the five and dime, the drugstore, and seeing covers, for heavy metal and whatnot when I was 10 or 11. His work just was, made a huge impression on me. And, even when Heavy Metal as a movie came out in 1981, I couldn't get my parents to take me because I was only 13 and they didn't feel I should go. So they, my dad got one of his welding buddies to take me because he felt it was far more appropriate, for him to take me than for him to go see a movie like that. And, the movie just left a huge impression on me. And, it's primarily due to Corben and Wrightson's contributions to that flick and that magazine as well. So, Corben died about 8 days ago from complications from a heart surgery, but it was just posted today. So I just wanted to take the time to say that, he was an important part of my childhood. And I don't think without him, I probably wouldn't have been as interested in comics and, the magazines of the time if it wasn't for his work. So, and it was really great to see a lot of the tributes that were on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot from some of the other creators. One of the big things that I always took away from looking at Corben's work was he just looked at it and he thought, how in the hell is he drawing like that? He's drawing like he's sculpting in clay. Everything's so smooth and, sculpted and three-dimensional. And, you saw those kind of comments today from a lot of creators like Mike Mignola, Adam Hughes, Joe Jusko, just, reading through the things that people were saying about him. I mean, he really left an impression on many of today's most popular, most talented artists, and many of them, of course, credit him for, kind of giving them inspiration in their artistic talent. So, with that, I would like to bring in my guest for the evening, Vincent Zurzolo. Hey, Vincent, how are you this evening?
Hey, Bill, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I know you're working late tonight at the office, so I appreciate you taking the time. So, as far as Corben goes for you, I mean, have you ever owned any artwork by him, or
a lot of the things you said, I can relate to completely. He's got such a unique style, and my introduction to him was in the Heavy Metal movie when I was a little kid. I went to see that with my big brothers, and that movie just blew me away. And one of my favorite parts of it was, of course, Den. And then later on, I got to read the comic books and delved into Heavy Metal magazine. And his work is just, it's something when you see it once, you never forget his style. And every time you see his work, that's Richard Corben. He's going to be sorely missed. And what a great talent we've lost. Without question. I mean, this has been a tragic year, losing Sinat over the summer. I mean, it's been rough. I'm looking forward to 2021. That's for sure. Yeah.
And collector Rich Danny's mentions that Chaykin wrote a great bit on Corben today. I'll have to check that out. I was actually texting with Howard earlier today about something over the weekend. So, well, Vincent, so, there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about today. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about the auction first, because I think we could talk about your career in the hobby for a long time, considering how long you've been in it. So I didn't want to miss out on chatting a bit about the ComicConnect auction that you have next Monday. I mean, obviously, you've been doing them for quite a while, but this particular auction seems to be just loaded with really nice pieces. So I wanted to commend you on that.
Thanks so much. We've been working really hard to develop and improve the quality of the art we bring to auction. And every auction, I think we bring something pretty special. This auction it's got a lot of great stuff, and it's really jump-started. We're already getting great consignments for our next auction. I just got a consignment. This will be in 2021, our first major event auction. Then we've got a page from X-Men '94 and the cover to Black Panther #8 by Jack Kirby. So that's in 2021. But we can see there's a cascade of consignments coming in now because of the hard work we put into these last few auctions. And of course, we have Micah Spivak on staff right now with us, and he's doing a great job with original art. The guy's an incredible wealth of knowledge. It impresses me the breadth of different genres and time periods. He has a really exact knowledge in terms of pricing, in terms of artists, and it's great. It's great to have him on board with us. And I think a lot of our clients are also reacting very positively to his the conversations they're having on the phone, and when we were at conventions, of course, that was great. But in this new day and age, I don't know when we'll be back at conventions, and so we're just seeing an incredible influx of business online and in our auctions, and so we're really grateful for that. And we can't say thank you enough to all the people who have continually bought, bid, and of course consigned with us. And we're looking at really great things to happen in 2021.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've known Micah for a while, not well, but I've known his collecting tastes, and I've chatted with him at New York Comic Con many times. So I thought he was a great addition to the team. That's for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, we feel the same way. But we've got this auction coming up, and it's ending on Monday night, December 14th, starting at 7 p.m. And we've got a whole host of fantastic art, and it's not all super expensive. There's also very affordable art in the auction, so you should really take a look around and see what you can find. And what's really great about our site now is if you're looking for something very specific, you can go to our advanced search and use you search by artwork, and then you can search by artists, publishers, and you can search by auctions or fixed price listings. So you have a lot of different variables there that you can use to really drill down to find what you're looking for, which I use it every day, and I find it really fantastic to use. And I hope our clients out there also can use it and enjoy it. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please don't be shy, and you can hit me up through social media or email Micah, and we'll try to improve the site every which way we can. But we're doing a lot of good stuff, and I'm glad that it's being noticed.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, I really felt that this was a huge upgrade over the prior site as far as its functionality, and the search is great. I mean, CAF could take a few pointers from the work that you put into your advanced search. That's for sure.
You're good.
It's true though. That's like, I can tell you that collectors, I get comments about how they would like to see me modify the search at least 3 or 4 times a week. So it's one of the most critical points for and it's usually an oversight on my part when I screw it up and I forget about it. Like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, searches are really tricky because there's so many things that you can do to improve one thing, and then sometimes is to the detriment of something else. So you're trying to find this middle ground where everything seems to work in a decent way. So we're still tweaking it, and we're definitely continuing to improve on that as well. So I can totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic. I can tell you my big oversight when I did the Comic Art Live show 3 weekends ago. I forgot to put a filter for whether the art was published or unpublished.
Wow.
So, and that everybody hated that because there's only guys that only collect published work, right? They don't want to scroll through a bunch of sketches, and I screwed that up.
It happens. You know what? You fix it for the next time. That's all you can do.
Exactly.
Why don't we jump into some of the artwork that in our we picked a small selection. We've got a ton of stuff in there. This piece we picked out. Let me just make sure it's centered. I'm hiding behind it.
I'm centering it. How's that?
So this piece is by Jack Davis, one of the all-time EC greats, and it's a promotional piece for Dinah Shore and Friends. And you might look at this and you might say, "Hey, why the heck is Vincent talking about this piece?" I think it's just really reminiscent of a time period, very different time period in television. You got Dinah Shore, you got Paul Williams, and this guy's name I always seem to forget, but it's got 3 names. Howard Riley, something Riley. Anyway, this is a piece that's up in the auction. I think it would make a great addition for anybody who's a Jack Davis fan or a pop culture TV buff. So that's one piece. And if I'm going too fast, just let me know. Here's another great piece. This is a Romita piece, beautifully done. Creatures on the Loose number 24. It's got Thongor on the front cover with the damsel in distress and a giant dragon. John Romita Sr., one of the greats, just such a consummate professional, sweet guy. And of course, his artwork has been going through the roof. this would probably be a more affordable Romita cover for anybody to bid on.
Well, question. Hey, and it was Charles Nelson Riley.
Thank you. That's it. Charles.
Rich Danny's said that. So that's good.
Thank you very much. So here's a gorgeous piece. This is by arguably one of the top 3 most prolific and skilled and popular artists of the modern age, Jim Lee. It's a wizard cover with Superman on it, and I think he did a beautiful job. He always does. I remember one year I was at the Lucca Comic-Con in Lucca, Italy, and Jim was sitting. He was surrounded by probably 50 fans at the time, and they were filming this, and he was drawing 2 covers at the same time, literally going back and forth, or I should say commissions, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. One was Batman, and I think the other one was Daredevil. I'm not sure, but it was astounding to watch him. He also was kind enough to do a Wolverine sketch for my sketchbook, which if we have time at the end of the show, I'd love to show you my sketchbook. I have so many great pieces. I started one in 1995 and did another one in about 5 years ago I started. But this is a great piece. I think this would be could be beautifully framed to be a showpiece in anybody's collection, in their man cave, collector cave, Fortress of Solitude. So it's just a great piece. Here we have an incredibly important Sandman page. First of all, really great by Hempel, but really great because he's in every panel. But what's also cool is his replacement is this little boy here. And also in the last panel, this is the first appearance of the people who will kill him. So really important piece, very easy to overlook in terms of its significance, but once you know, you know. And great use of contrast here, obviously black and white, but still the way the pencil lines and the inks are done, you can really see a lot of well thought out planning to bring out and emphasize emotion and action. I think it's a great piece. I think you're going to see a lot of action on this piece at the very end.
I agree. I think it's been. I think it's going to realize a really nice price, honestly.
Yeah, we hope so for our consignor, and we hope it's not too much for our bidders. So here we have Tales of the Green Beret. This is by Joe Kubert, also one of the greatest creators. And we were talking about Romita a few minutes ago. Let me just share with you a really quick story about how great a guys Joe Kubert and John Romita Sr. were. Back when the hurricane hit Louisiana, Katrina, I had in mind, I said to myself, I want to do something. What can I do? My days are spent mostly buying and selling, taking consignments, and making money. That's what I do. I mean, I love comic books. I love comic book art. I love collectibles, but I'm a businessman. And I said to myself, what can I do to try to turn something into a positive here? And I reached out to Romita Sr. and Joe Kubert and asked them if they, along with their sons, would be interested in doing some commission pieces that we could auction off on eBay. And the sons were too busy working, so they weren't able to do it, but Joe and John agreed to do it. And John Romita was so thoughtful. I wanted to have them do a piece that would show the superheroes coming to save the day. And he thought that was very disrespectful to the first responders. And after I thought about it, I said, that's a great point. So he didn't want to do that, but what we agreed he would do, and Joe would do, is just do a commission. We'd put up a blank piece of paper for auction. And we would do they would do a commission of any character that they were famous for that the winner of the auction wanted. I thought we raised $1,500. Within the first half hour, I think both of the items were over $1,500 each. And what was great was at the end of the day, when the auctions ended, they ended at around $4,300 in total. And I think Kubert's was a little bit higher because he didn't do as many commissions at the time. But that's neither here nor there. The point of it was one of the underbidders contacted me asking if they matched the top bidder's price. Would Romita do another one for him? And I called up John, and he said yes. And then I got in my head, I said, let me call up Joe and see if he would do it. And he said yes. And I contacted the underbidder on the Kubert piece. And so we ended up raising over $8,000 for Hurricane Katrina. And it just shows like neither one of these guys charged anything for it. They were happy to do it. And really their money went to help some people in need. And that was a great thing. I love that story. But for the main reason basically is because, again, it was a moment for me that transcends being in business and selling $1 million comic book or anything like that. This was something where you got to help somebody. And I think that's really important for us to keep in mind. Getting back to this piece though, sorry, I digressed a bit. This is the first comic strip for Tales of the Green Beret by Joe Kubert. Easy to overlook and just think, oh, hey, there's just another piece of strip art. But this is a lot of significance in that it is the first. It's like the #1 issue. This one is pretty darn cool. Bob Oxner, Lois Lane, super triple bondage cover. And it's just gorgeous, really great detail. This one has a reserve on it, but it's very, very close to the reserve right now. And I think it's going to get tripped because I think if you went to any art show, art convention and saw this up on the wall, you'd see a much bigger price than what the reserve is. So that was one of the reasons that we were happy to put a reserve on this piece. We knew it would get tripped. And I just think it's a fantastic piece. And I hope one of you will be the lucky winner and get this piece in your collection. We got a really fantastic consignment from one collector, and several of the pieces in this auction, several of the featured pieces in this auction come from the same consignor. And this is one of them. This is from this is by Howard Chaykin, and it is, in my opinion, the quintessential image of American flag. If you're looking for a great image of American flag by Howard Chaykin, this is it. I mean, this is a cover in and of itself. This is actually from a French a plate edition, and it is from 1983. It's a portfolio, plate from a portfolio. I just think the detail, it's got everything you want in this piece. It's just a stunning, stunning piece. Great line work. Howard Chaykin, actually one of the only people I ever interviewed on Comics on Radio. I kind of got nervous around him. He's such a smart guy and such a talented guy. I just think this piece is fantastic. Another one of my favorite artists, Jim Starlin. And the second I saw this, I recognized it. I couldn't quite place what it was from. Is the back cover of Star Reach #1, and then became the front cover of another issue of Star Reach. One of the greatest things I learned from Jim Starlin was when I interviewed him years ago on Comics Zone Radio. I was asking him, I said, you know, did you study Bern Hogarth? Because I noticed you use a lot of very rounded musculature in your artwork. And he said, well, no, I learned from Gil Kane, and Gil Kane learned from Bern Hogarth. So you see this line of succession in a similar style, in a similar vein of artwork. Gil Kane's one of my top 3 favorite artists, and by extension, I just love Jim Starlin's work all the way through his career. I mean, I think he's done so many different genres, so many different types of characters. This piece is just stunning, and yeah. Oh, I don't know what else to say about it. Just look at the art. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous piece.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I didn't know that about Gil Kane and Bern Hogarth, but you know that makes a lot of sense. I studied Bern's dynamic figure drawing book until my hand. Yeah, I mean, I can see it now that you've said that. Yeah, no, when growing up, I wanted to be an illustrator too, and Hogarth's book was, that particular book was like my favorite read.
You know, I was in my mid-20s as I was developing my business, and I also would love to have been a comic book artist. I don't have the natural skill, and the amount of time and effort and energy it takes to just learn how to draw a hand was quite, overwhelming. And I tried for a bit, and I even studied at the art students league here in New York City in Manhattan, and I loved it. And when I went to school in Budapest, when I was in St. John's University, I studied art there, and I made really great improvements, but I never had that. I think it's that willpower to sit there at that table for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and just continually keep drawing and drawing and drawing. And when you see these guys and what they're able to create, and some of them are naturals. Some of the guys who never needed an art lesson in their life, and they just have the brain that makes that art look so beautiful and unique. And other guys, you can tell, had to bust their asses to really, really work hard. I remember taking art lessons from Joe Giella. He had file drawers filled with reference material that he cut out of thousands and thousands of magazines and newspapers. And if he needed a car, he'd open up his drawer for cars, and he'd pull out a piece from that. I learned, I remember taking some art lessons from Prentice Rollins, who's one of the great inkers of the modern era. He worked probably most famously with Dennis Cowan on hardware for Milestone, which I'm so happy to see coming out again. But Prentice could sit there and draw the anatomy, every bone of a human body, and tell you the names of them. I mean, it's just incredible, the level of knowledge and detail that these guys go through to master their craft. And that's part of the reason for me, as a comic book collector, as well as a comic art collector, I've always wanted to elevate the art form, both comics and artwork. That's why we started Metropolis Gallery here in New York City, the only art gallery dedicated solely to comic and fantasy art. We just love this stuff, and I wanted to see this. I can't tell you how many times I was out at parties where people would say, "What do you do for a living?" And I tell them I buy and sell comics. Oh, what's your real job? Or comics are just for kids. And that drives you a little crazy, puts a chip on your shoulder, and it makes you want to get everybody around the world to understand and recognize and respect, to me, the greatest American art form, the American comic book. I could go on for days about this stuff, but instead, let me pull up a piece by the master, the king, Jack Kirby. And no auction's complete without a Kirby piece in it. And this is a great piece from Tales of Suspense. It's a splash page. And even with something like this, you just see the mastery of, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comic book artists of all time. And what I really love about Kirby is you can see there's an evolution in his artwork. And you watch what happened from the Golden Age all the way through the Bronze Age. And you just see this change and evolution and dynamics. And whether you're looking at a Fantastic Four page or Captain Galaxy, there's something really fantastic. He captures that Mighty Marvel manner, that Mighty Marvel way, where it's that split second of action that he captures in a panel of art that just blows your mind. I could, once again, I could talk for hours about Kirby. There's another great piece in the auction. And yeah, speaking of my all-time favorite, Gil Kane, I'll show you a little bit later, Amazing Adventures 11, the first furry beast. That's my favorite cover in my personal collection. And I consider myself quite the aficionado when it comes to Gil Kane artwork. And here's a great piece. When we were offered this piece for consignment, the cover to Doctor Strange number 8, I was just tickled pink. I really, really was. And one of the great things you guys should know is, like, you see some of this discoloration here, some of the staining. There are fantastic guys like Robert Dennis out there, Phil Rutkowitz. There's so many different guys that do fantastic work on artwork. They can restore it and get it to look ultra pretty. So don't let that dissuade you from bidding on this, because and personally for me, I hardly ever get any of my artwork touched up, because I kind of like it. I kind of like these little defects and things in my art, and it makes it extra cool. So here you have the Dread Dormammu and Doctor Strange, and it's got everything you need. It's got everything you want. Monsters is Gal Pal. You name it, you got it right here. All right.
That's one of my favorite covers in the auction, by the way. I mean, I've always been a huge Kane and Doctor Strange fan. This is just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. So we were talking about Jim Lee. So I think three of the greatest modern day masters, and what I'd say it would be Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Frank Miller. We've got a representation of all three in this auction, and here's a fantastic piece by Todd McFarlane. And as you can see right behind me, I'm a big fan. I actually owned 3 covers from Amazing Spider-Man during Todd's run, and I never thought I even owned one. So I am just so tickled pink every time I walk through the permanent exhibit or here in my office looking at Todd McFarlane's work, and it just makes me happy. What I love about this piece, even though Spidey's not swinging, he's not in action, that is a fantastic hero image. And I loved this style of rectangular, I guess you'd call it portrait-sized or styled panels that he was using. I actually owned at one time the panel where from 328 where Spidey's knocking Hulk into the stratosphere, and I happened to sell it to the guy who's got almost all the pages, my buddy Socrates, and I'm happy that it's in a good home. But boy, that's a page I always wish I had back, because I just love the action, and I love the stylized techniques that McFarlane used that made him so incredibly different. In fact, I tell you that when Spidey 300 came out, I was kind of like in and out of comic books during that period. Even though I had started buying and selling when I was about 15, I was up. I think it was 1986 when that came out. 300.
Really so, yeah.
And so I was about 15 years old, and I was up at a ski resort in a bed and breakfast, and at night everybody gathered around the fireplace and hung out and talked. And I saw this guy across from me is reading a comic book. I'm like, wow, what is that? And he said, oh, it's Spidey 300. It's a new artist. And I'm sitting there. I said, can I take a look at it? And I'm blown away by the spaghetti webbing, and I'm just so excited. And he looks at me. He goes, I work at Forbidden Planet. If you want that, you can have it. And I guess it was probably like $5 at the time, or $3, who knows. And I still have that copy. I still have that Spidey 300, and I read it like 3 times that night. I just could not get over how incredible the artwork was. And when I was starting out my business after I graduated from St. John's, I was selling comic books on the streets of Manhattan that summer in 1993. And I used to sell comic books on Broadway between John and Maiden. I had 2 card tables set up with 8 boxes of comic books, and I was selling to anybody who was coming out of Wall Street or just walking by. And it was such an exciting and cool thing to do, because I got to sell comic books all day. I'd close up around 3 o'clock, go home, hit the beach, hang out with my friends, play volleyball, come home, pack packages that are from mail order sales. And I had this little stack of McFarlane Amazing Spider-Mans on my on one of my shelves, where I would sit and pack for about 2 or 3 hours at night every night. And the cover right behind me, that's the cover that was sitting on the top of that stack. And when I had the chance to buy that, I just had to go for it. And I'm so happy I did. Every day while I'm on the phone working at my desk, I get to look at that thing, and it just reminds me of my past. It reminds me of how much I love comic art and McFarlane's contributions to the form, and also it was a really, really fantastic investment. So, but getting back to this piece, I think it's at around $16,000, which, going by what pages have been selling for lately, and covers in some of my competitors' auctions, we're all doing really well right now, and prices are going through the roof. I think this piece has a long way to go before it sells in terms of its price. So take a look at this one. It's great. All right, next up, one of the Twice Up covers by Gene Colan and Marie Severin in our auction. I mean, double-digit Daredevil cover, number 40. Great image of Daredevil, very dramatic. This piece is just absolutely super. I don't think I can use enough words to describe how great it is. I think you can see this is a showpiece, grail for anybody's collection, and I think it's really right now quite low. I know a lot of times for our auctions, which simulate a live auction experience with extended bidding, a lot of the auction bids come in right at the end. But you should be prepared for this one. I really believe this is going to jump quite a bit. What I'd also say that's interesting, if you go back, by the way, all of the interviews I did on ComicZoneRadio.com are still up and online, and they're all free. You can listen to them any day. And I remember interviewing Gene Colan, and he was just such a nice guy and such an incredibly, I feel, for a long period of time, overlooked and underappreciated artist. His abilities with shading, of cross-hatching, of creating moods in his art, especially on Daredevil and Iron Man. I mean, how do you make a guy in armor? How do you create a mood and an emotion when he's behind this mask and in this armor, this helmet, I should say? And Colan was able to do that time and time again, and I think it's one of the things that makes him incredibly special, and somebody that, you know, every collector should have a Gene Colan piece in their collection of representation of his art. Maybe this is the one for you.
Yeah, Gene was always an acquired taste, that's for sure. But I would agree. I've been looking for a Gene Colan piece of late. You know, Cap Page would be like my ideal, but I completely agree. I'd love to get some.
Quite prolific and did so many different things. And you don't even need a great action page to get a great Gene Colan page.
Right.
All right, we're getting down to a few of the heavy hitters. This piece is just absolutely wow. I have an affinity for the elemental superheroes, so to speak. Human Torch, Sunfire, Submariner, Thing, and here we have Firelord. And pretty much all of the new X-Men except for Jean Grey. This is an incredible piece, an incredible opportunity, because you don't often get a chance at such a dramatic and large, you know, double-page splash from Dave Cockrum's run on X-Men. This piece is really special. The entire office, when it came in, we all kind of gathered around and were staring at it for quite a bit of time. That's one of the really wonderful things about our staff right now. Everybody's really passionate about comics and artwork here. We've got a great team, and people really do appreciate it. And even some of my younger staff who don't know the Golden Age or Silver Age as well as they do know Modern or Bronze or Copper Age, really take a shining to pieces like this, and obviously the Golden Age and Silver Age we have in the office. But you got a great piece here with Aurora. You've got Cyclops, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine. This is the initial new team, so this is a really special piece. I can't wait to see what it ends at.
I agree. You know, I've owned several Byrne X-Men pages and several Cockrum X-Men pages, and I had to sell them all. But if I could get one of them back, a Cockrum example would be the one that I want before the Byrne. Even though I love them both, but there's something about Cockrum's work that I just always fell in love with. And he was drawing the book when I got turned on to the X-Men. Yeah.
So we're around the same age. I had two big brothers, and they collected comic books. So literally, I remember my first X-Men that I ever read was issue 95 through 100 and Giant Size #1. Those are my first X-Men. That's what I cut my teeth on. I mean, geez, you couldn't ask for better. My first Hulks were 180, 181, and 182. I mean, mind-blowing. The good fortune I had to have such cool big brothers with such amazing taste. My big brother Sal and Jerry. My brother Sal, by the way, runs the Garden State Comic Fest in New Jersey with his partner Dave. It's a great old school show, and hopefully when conventions come back, if you're anywhere on the East Coast, you got to jump in a car, train, whatever you need to do to get over to the convention, because not only do they have a great selection of dealers there, but they always stock the convention with fantastic artists, very talented, and some really big names like Walt Simonson always shows up. Greg Hildebrandt always shows up, and then Billy Tucci. You've had Kevin Eastman has come in. So it's really, really fun. Here's one of the big pieces. So I love Frank Miller's art, and I got to interview him on Comic Zone Radio, and I've got to meet him in person, and I've got to go to his studio, and I got to represent him at a Big Apple Comic Convention, which was one of the thrills of my career. And one of the most fun parts of that was being able to share that with my childhood friends, who we all grew up loving comic art, and everybody was crazy about Frank Miller on Daredevil. And I'll never forget, Daredevil, of course, but I remember the Wolverine miniseries, which I'm really happy I got 2 pages from this year to add to my collection, and they cost me a fortune, but I waited too long, and that's one of the things I can't stress enough. If you like something and you're on the fence about, oh, I don't know if I should spend the money, I've been in the art market for over 20 years. It just keeps going up. Jump on this stuff before it jumps another 30, 40, 50%. I'm telling you, I can't stress it enough. Comic art is going through the roof. I can't believe how much things have escalated. And every couple of years, I'll think to my head, are we in a bubble? Is this stuff going to fall in value? And the simple answer is no. When you compare comic art and comic books to other collectibles that are much more common, our prices are still relatively low. I mean, and I would have this argument with anybody. I think comic books have touched way more people than baseball players, and baseball cards sell for a lot more than comic books and comic art. Worldwide, I'm talking about. In America, you might argue more people like baseball than they like comic books, but when you add in comic book movies, TV shows, apparel, blah 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 blah, and all the different things, toys, video games, all those different things, it blows everything out of the water. And when you think about how undervalued this stuff is, even though the prices are escalating, I think we've got plenty of room for growth. And you have to also understand, not many institutions have gotten into investing in building up art collections. Some of them have, but the more of those that come into it, the more these prices are just going to go through the roof. I bought some pieces. When I buy them, like I have a Matt Baker 7 Seas cover. That's a museum quality piece for so many different reasons. It's one of the only Golden Age Matt Baker covers I've ever seen. And Matt Baker being one of probably the most popular African-American comic book artists of the Golden Age, that piece will be in a museum one day. So I can't stress enough how much I believe in this stuff and how bullish I am on comic art, even though it is getting more and more expensive. And you know what? There is a piece of art for every budget and a budget for every piece of art. So you got to find what you like, what you can afford, and jump on it. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. Just get in on this stuff. It's great. And it's going to make you happy. Don't end up wasting it on, you have to buy car insurance. You have to insure your home. But this stuff you buy because it makes you happy. And it also has upside potential as investment. Getting back to this amazing Frank Miller Daredevil cover. You got Gladiator. It's got a lot of the quintessential imagery that Frank Miller is known for. Klaus Janson doing an amazing job with the inks. One of my favorite inkers. And this piece kind of has it all. You've got one of the issues that I know when I saw this cover, I remember when I was reading it when I was a kid. I remember everything about it. And I think this piece is going to really surprise people at where it ends up finally in terms of its price. We'll see in a few days.
That's right.
And here we have another fantastic piece. Only the 6th cover appearance of The Punisher. And this is an amazing Spider-Man 162. Ross Andrew, who also is another artist who I feel was very much overlooked for decades, and has really seen an escalation in the prices for his artwork. You got Spidey in a beautiful dynamic pose. You've got Nightcrawler, and it is one of those fantastic New York moments. The tram at Roosevelt Island. I can't tell you how many times I've gone over that tram. I think this is just a spectacular piece. Sky's the limit on this one. I had one collector, a very astute collector that probably most of you know. He called up today and told Micah he thought this could hit 6 figures. And you know what? in this day and age, with the way prices are going, you never know. This could be one of those six-figure pieces. It's just breathtaking. For me, one of my favorite X-Men is Nightcrawler. You've got him hanging there from his tail. Spidey, once again, the Spidey pose almost reminds me of the old those hard plastic Marvel figures. I forget what they're called exactly, but I used to have a set of those when I was a kid. I have one tucked away somewhere. But this is a great piece, one of the showcased featured pieces in our auction. Again, all these pieces, except for the Lois Lane, $1 start price, no reserves. And I think that you could put these on your watch list. You should get in there and bid. And some of the pieces we do offer time payments, and some of the pieces are not listed with time payments. And if you have questions about that, sometimes you can call us up. We can make a special call out to the consignor, see if we can get you that time on it. And sometimes it helps people out, because not everybody can plunk down a huge amount of money all at once, but over time. And then we also, one of the things I should really stress, really important, is that we are taking consignments and offering really generous cash advances. So if you see a great piece of art and you want to take some of your art and move it into this newer piece, we're more than happy to take that art for our next auction and give you a very generous cash advance. And sometimes we can even help, obviously, pay off the entire new purchase. So there's so many different options, and we're really, like I said, I can't stress enough. I hope you can see through my face and through my voice, hear through my voice, how incredibly passionate I am, my staff is, and how much we're looking forward to this auction and also everything that's going to be happening for us in 2021. We're going to be also building up our mega monthly auctions, in which we're going to be showcasing not only comic books, but original comic art, video games, pulps, movie props, TV props, concert posters, statues, toys. We've got an incredible selection of Star Wars and G.I. Joes in this auction. The pulps just make me so happy. That's another market I think is incredibly undervalued. I think that the pulps will see an explosion in price over the next year or two. There's a lot of new blood coming into the pulp market. Movie props are insane. We auctioned off Wonder Woman's lasso. Captain America's full uniform a couple of years ago sold for over $180,000. Cap shields, cap helmets, so many great pieces. So there's so many different things that people collect, but I really feel like it all comes around and is connected to comics and pop culture. We also jumped into the Pokemon market, and some people might go, Pokemon, what, are you kidding me? Pokemon. Listen, for a kid of the 70s and 80s, what Wolverine and the X-Men are to me, to kids growing up in the 90s, that's what Pokemon is to them. And we have these sealed booster boxes that probably over $150,000 worth of booster boxes, but actually close to $200,000 worth of booster boxes in our auction. I can't wait to see where these things end up on Monday. It's just so exciting. I'm like, I just can't wait. I know I'm missing something, and something else I can talk about, but we've got so much great stuff, and it really is important. Once again, use our search functions, use our filters. You can go from highest price to lowest price, or lowest price to highest price. You can see all the different things. There's a lot of stuff that's really still low, and I don't think people are going to be bidding on that type of stuff until the very end. But it's good to get insight into what it is, because you might get some great deals.
So Jason asked a question earlier, and it's something that I was going to point out too, is that I think a lot of your earlier auctions, in the last 5 years, always did have a lot of reserves. But the change on this auction was that I think there's fewer reserves than I've ever seen in the past, especially on the higher level, higher ticket items that are out there. Was this a move that you tried to work towards for this particular auction?
I think there's increased confidence in our abilities to draw in great prices. But I also think that in the past, you say there were a lot of times where we had reserves. I don't necessarily agree with that. If you look at the John Burke auction, which was one of our biggest art auctions, not one piece had a reserve on it. We sold the art to Planet Comics #1 in that auction. We sold Schomburg covers. We sold so many great pieces, and nothing had reserves. The last auction we had, we had an opportunity to get a great consignment of John Byrne X-Men art, but the consignor felt very strong about having reserves on them. I had a decision to make, and I had to weigh it. And I said, look, I really want this stuff, and I'll play ball on this. I really don't like reserves, and I try to stay away from them as much as humanly possible, because I think the psychology for a bidder is they don't want any encumbrance that stops them from knowing that at some point they can win this piece without having to trip a reserve. So, but going back to the last auction, we had the Byrne pieces, and we took them because we thought that there would be a chance that some of the reserves would be met, or maybe we'd have a chance at after auction. By the way, those pieces are up and available on our site. And I think if you compare them to some of the prices that have gone down recently, they might be reasonable. I know a few guys out there who are posting their stuff on Facebook, and I know what they're paying for it. And these pieces seem to be right in line with those types of numbers. But going back to our current auction, I think we have maybe one or two pieces that have reserves. Once again, we built up, I think, a sense of confidence by making certain changes in our website, in our search capabilities, in how we're listing artwork, and the imagery, and also our promotion through social media, through press releases, through articles, and our write-ups. I think our write-ups are the best in the business. Not trying to take away from anybody else, but the level of research and detail that go into the descriptions that we write up, I think, are second to none, and I'm quite proud of them. Yeah, this is going to be a great auction.
Well, I learned about the Spider-Man cover auction from TMZ. you know?
And you know what? Look, we have a fantastic publicist, and we're able to get out into places that none of our competitors are able to go or get coverage from. And we do it on a regular basis. We have really great relationships with a whole host of writers and journalists. And you see it. The proof is in the pudding. We're everywhere. Yeah,
I agree. So kind of a little off topic, but I mean, before we start talking about your history in the hobby, which we do want to get to in your collection, Ankur asked the question, what does the collector on a budget focus on with pricing going up so quickly these days?
That's a great question, Ankur. My first advice to and I just did a whole thing for a website called pennyhoarder.com about how to collect and invest in comic books, but the same types of strategies should be used for comic art as well. So the first thing is to find something you love. All right, when you find a character or an artist or a genre that you really love, you can build from there. And then you have to find stuff that fits into your budget, time period wise, art-wise, artist-wise. So let's say you're a huge I don't know, EC fan. You love EC art. Maybe you can't afford a piece of published EC art, but maybe you can find a commission or a sketch that might foot the bill for what you want, or fit the bill, I should say, for what you want. So I think you have to get creative sometimes. But like I said again, if you look at our auction, there are tons of pieces that are in the hundreds of dollars, or some even right now might be a little bit less. But that I think that they will continue to escalate towards the very end of the auction. And once again, don't get fooled because something's at $100 that's going to end at 110. That's not going to happen. Look at all of our past auctions. We have that extended bidding where at the last 3 minutes, if you bid, it extends it 3 more minutes. So that's where a lot of our bidding takes place. But nonetheless, you can definitely find great pieces to fit your budget. Another thing you can do is you can always try to reach out to the artist himself, and sometimes you'll get a great piece for an affordable price. The one thing I would say, everybody buys and sells art. If you get a great piece from an artist and they do you a real solid in terms of the price, don't go out and put it on eBay. It's kind of shitty, and if they see it, then they'll stop doing it for other people. So try to find what you love. Try to find the genre, the artist, the characters that you love, and then look to see which pieces you can find that are in your price range. What I also tell people when you're building a budget for collecting any type of collectible, artwork for sure, focus 90% of your budget on the things that you really want and leave 10% discretionary. because what I've found as a collector is I will focus on something and then I go, oh, that's really nice. That's really, I want that. I want that. And if you have that little bit of extra cash there to buy one of those other pieces, it'll make you happy. It won't make it, it'll stop you from feeling you're losing out on something. And it'll also help you to keep focused on the other more important things that you want for your collection. So those are some of the pieces of advice I would give. I also just wanted to point out really quick, I hardly ever get to go out anymore. So I put on my suit for you guys tonight because, with COVID and the lockdown that we were under here in New York City, I don't know, man. I just no more Broadway right now, hardly ever going out to restaurants. And so I wanted to dress up for you guys tonight and have some fun.
No, and I'll tell you the idea of on a budget type of thing. That's something we're actually going to do a show on my Comic Art Live show with Will, Glenn, and Berkey in early January. Is they're each going to pick out a different creator and then talk about, you might not be able to afford a Kirby over here.
Right.
But if you really want a Kirby, you want that representative example, you can still buy Kirby's at an affordable price here. Or same thing with a John Buscema. Maybe you're not going to get an Avengers page, but you can get a nice horror page. So we've kind of been working out the concept for that show. It's something that we want to do like every quarter with a different creator and just kind of give people examples of where they can still buy, the people that they love, but they might not get that top level piece. And I think that's important, especially today. I mean, I'm on a budget. I need to look for those deals too.
We all are. You might see a lot of this great art around my office, and there's a point where I just go, I gotta stop a little bit. And I've gone through periods where I didn't buy a piece of art or a comic book for 6 months, and then all of a sudden I just go crazy. And most times, more than not, I spend more than my yearly allotment for collectibles. Sometimes in the first couple of months of the year, I love this stuff, and I really believe wholeheartedly in it. For me, I've paid tip-top retail for art that I love, and don't even blink an eye, because from my experience in artwork, I've seen so much appreciation that. And every time I think that, how much higher can it go? I mean, the McFarlane market just exploded into the stratosphere yet again. Gil Kane took steps that I never imagined 10, 15 years ago. Frazetta, I wish I bought every piece of art we had in our Frazetta Metropolis gallery exhibit when we had it. At the time, all the prices seemed really high, or at least very aggressive. And now they're a fraction of what wholesale would be. So take that into account and think about your artwork collection as something that in general you're going to hold, I would say 3 to 5 years at the very least. I'm talking about this as for investors. For collectors, hold it for your whole life. I mean, for me, I've done a combination. I know the pieces that I bought as an investment. I know the pieces that I bought for my collection. And I know that when I'm ready to start maybe winding down a bit and thinning out my collection, I know the last pieces that are going to go. I know the first pieces that are going to go. And a lot of it has more to do with my emotional connection and nostalgic connection to these pieces than monetary value. My Amazing Adventures 11 cover is my favorite piece in my collection, The First Furry Beast. I could talk about it for days. My two favorite artists, Gil Kane and Bill Everett. It's got a three-dimensional quality. I bought it about 20 years ago, just after Steve and I merged companies. It was on eBay, of all places. And I'll never forget, I was waiting till the last day, the entire week. Every time I thought about this piece of art, and this has never happened to me before or since, I was getting like heart palpitations, like very much like freaking out. If I don't get this piece, I'm going to scream. This is not going to be good. And the reason I had such a connection to this is, once again, goes back to my brothers collecting comic books. And the first, one of the first comic books I ever read was Amazing Adventures number 11. And I love the story. And I love how he turns himself into this furry beast, and he creates this pseudoderm that he puts over his face as a mask to try to look like a regular person, to go back in the lab to try to figure out how to turn himself back into the normal Hank McCoy, excuse me. And this cover just makes me so happy. And the last 10 seconds that the auction was going down, my computer froze. My partner happened to be online, and he said, "Do you want me to bid?" And I said, "Bid, bid, bid." And he got it for me. And it's been in my collection ever since. And I think I paid around $8,000 for it. I'm never thinking it was going to go, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000. I don't know what it's worth right now, but I remember Conrad Eschenberg told me a number of years ago, and this is going back because Conrad, unfortunately, I think had MS, and he's no longer in the market, or at least I haven't talked to him in forever. I hope he's doing well. If by any chance he's watching this, Conrad, you were always a really big help for me when I was starting out, and I hope you're doing great. But he thought at the time, this was years ago, he thought it was worth 50 grand. Who knows? I don't know what it's worth today, but that'll be the last piece that goes from my collection. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you weren't the one that placed the winning bid, though. You had to get your friend to do it.
Yeah, I had to get Steve. Steve's like, I'm up. You want me to do it? I'm like, yes, go for it. And I got it. And I beat out a bunch of guys, including Donnelly's, Berkey, I think, a few other guys. And I think it was right around that time, like a year later, the cover to Astonishing Tales 25 also went up for auction, and I've never seen it since. I don't know who owns it. If you're out there and you own it, I'm a huge Deathlock fan, and I want that cover. I would love to have that cover. I love Deathlock. In fact, I'm going to show you one thing really cool that it's one of the recreations I have here in my office, and this piece is just super cool. The great Mike Zeck. Look at the detail. Look at the fist. It's kind of like the fist here kind of reminds you, it's very Kirby-esque, and yet it's so Mike Zeck. I mean, look at the detail on this thing. And I love this cover. This is fantastic. It's just like the Cap annual with Cap and Wolverine, and it's just that time period. Zeck was incredible, unbelievable. I have a couple of other things to show you guys. One thing in particular that I thought you'd get a kick out of. It's not comic art, but it's kind of neat. So this is in our auction, and you might not know what it is, but these are pieces of an Action Comics #1. So you too can own a piece of Action Comics #1, and even has one of the staples. Basically, the collector who had this brittle copy basically got every page CGC graded and auctioned them through us. And he realized he had this little pile of paper, this shards of brittle pulp. And this is your chance. You could own a piece of Action #1 and make a great conversation piece. Heck, we've auctioned off Jerry Siegel's hair. So, there's a market for everything. And I think it's a really, really cool piece. Another thing I collect, I have gotten into movie props for a bit. This is the Tesseract from Captain America: The First Avenger. This is the piece that when they go into when Red Skull goes into the church, I think in Norway, the priest gives him a fake, and this is the fake that the Red Skull crushes. Now, everybody who comes to my office has to pick this one up and hold it like the Red Skull, and it's just a great conversation piece and really cool piece that I love having in my collection. I'm also a massive Bruce Lee fan, and not to get too far off topic, but Bruce Lee has been a huge influence in my life, and I collect his checks, signed Bruce Lee checks. He got a really beautiful signature, if you can see it there. And I bought my first one at a WonderCon in Oakland, California in 1995 from my buddy for, I think, $325. And the last one I bought, I paid a little over $11,000 for. Bruce Lee collectibles are memorabilia going through the roof. Some really, really amazing stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. So how about we talk a little bit about your history? Now, I think, we know that you were selling comics on a street corner, but how did you go from there to, collecting artwork and forming a company that was big enough to decide to merge with Steve in 1999? So how did you get your start there?
It's funny when I talk about this stuff, and it's my origin story, so to speak. I can't believe I've been doing this for as a dealer. I've been buying and selling comics and artwork and collectibles for 35 years. This April will be about 35 years. I'll be turning 50 in April. And what I remember very distinctly for me was learning that if you want something to happen, you write it down. There's a 70% chance, more of a chance, that it'll actually come to fruition. And when I graduated from St. John's, I had a professor, Professor Sullivan, and actually the building we studied in was Sullivan Hall. He started off as the mail clerk for the Borden Company and worked his way all the way up to the CEO. And he was a really inspiring guy and gave a lot of really great advice for business owners. I took what I learned from him, from what I learned from my parents who were immigrants from Italy who lived the American dream. My father always told me knowledge was power, and he always also told me be your own boss. He was a chef and restaurateur. And also stuff I learned from Bruce Lee, from reading the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, from studying Jeet Kune Do, and also from motivational speakers like Tony Robbins. I set out when I got out of St. John's and I was selling on the streets of Manhattan. I remember I had this right before I started. I made the conscious decision to be a comic book dealer full time. I had a decision to make. I went to school for marketing. I could go do that, or I could do this. And I realized I could make a lot more money doing this, and I would have a lot more fun doing this. So it wasn't a hard decision. But when I sat down, I said to myself, if I'm going to do this, I'm an incredibly passionate and also competitive person. I want to be the biggest and the best. And I had no idea how I was going to do that, but I sat and wrote it down. And I basically started competing. And I was way behind. Everybody I was competing against had much more experience, money, network, you name it. One of the things I saw as an opportunity, a place where I could differentiate my company from everybody else, was customer service. And that's something I built my business on. And I believe very strongly in good customer service. I don't believe the customer is always right, sorry, but I do believe that you always try to work with somebody to try to find a solution that can work for both parties. Having said all that, I set out to build my business, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I worked my tail off and I kept building and building. And I graduated in '93, went through a lot of ups and downs. There were some very lean years where I wasn't doing incredibly well, and I'd go travel to a convention cross country, and I'd get home and I barely break even. And I go, what am I doing wrong? And you, through trial and trying different things, you try to come up with a better way of doing it and strategy, and you build from there. I also got ripped off at a convention in 1996. I had no insurance. Somebody walked out of a convention with 4 of my best boxes. It was devastating. It took me about a month of wallowing in the mire before I had to just basically say, are you kidding me? You can't keep going, woe is me. And I basically woke up one morning. I said, from this day forward, I am going to work 10 times faster, smarter, stronger, harder than I ever thought humanly possible. And basically, I got myself back to break even within 3 months. And one of the things that was interesting, Mike Carbonaro's dad, Tony Carbonaro, gave him a great piece of advice, which he shared with me, which was, every dark cloud has a silver lining. And what ended up happening was interesting. I was doing business with a comic dealer. Many of you probably know him, Mark Haspel, and I bought a bunch of stuff from him. And about a year after that, he ended up buying a bunch of comic books in Florida. And when he offered them to me, and when he showed them to me, I looked at them and realized these were some of the stolen books. And from there, I bought them all back at whatever price, he said. I just wanted those books back, and I didn't want him to be out because it wasn't his fault. And we never were able to find the thief. But what ended up happening is, like a year after that, he offered me books from what was the Spokane collection, which was the first pedigree collection that I ever brought to market. And that I bought a bunch of those books, and then I said to him, I said, hey, Mark, you really should call my buddy Steve Fischler, and he would love to see these books. And so Mark went over to Steve's afterwards, and Steve called me up and said, Vin, we've got to buy all these books. These are incredible. And so I remember Steve was really very generous. He said, we got to buy all these books. I said, Steve, I don't have that in my budget to be able to afford. He said, don't worry about it. We'll work that out later. We're going to buy these together. And we bought the entire collection. So the silver lining there is that if I didn't get ripped off, I wouldn't have started, I wouldn't have bought those books back. I wouldn't have been offered the spoke cans, and that may have, and then bought them with Steve, which led to our becoming partners in 1999. Steve Fischler, who is a dear friend, invited me into the city and said, hey, let's get some drinks. And I came to the city, and he said, look, I'm probably going to get married. I want to have kids. I want to be able to slow down a little bit, and I want to bring somebody on. And I've thought about it a lot, and I was quite humbled by this, because Steve is not one to just give away compliments freely. And he asked me to become his partner. And it took us about a year to come up with a partnership agreement. In July 1st of 1999, we merged companies. Vincent's Collectibles was my company. Metropolis was his. His was obviously the bigger one. And one of the only guys I couldn't figure out how to beat. And you know the old adage, if you can't beat them, join them. So we merged companies, and that was my making it to that level of becoming the world's largest dealer for vintage comic books. And we started ComicConnect in 2007 because we saw a tremendous need from our clients to have another option. And it's one of the things I think is a great strength between Metropolis and ComicConnect. We have so many different ways to help a client to sell their collection, so we can buy it outright. We can do cash advances. We can auction things off. We can take consignments for fixed price selling. We have so many different variations, and also private selling is one of our biggest things. There are a lot of sales that don't get promoted in the marketplace, artwork and comic books and other collectibles, because they're private sales, and we're asked by the clients either to buy or sell, or both sometimes, to keep them under the radar. We do millions and millions and millions of dollars each year in private sales, which is a very big part of our business. One of, I think, my greatest strengths is, there's a saying, knowing where the bodies are buried. I know where all the comic books are, and I know all the guys and comic art, and I know all the people who are looking for them. So we take these two parts of the puzzle, and you try to connect them and bridge the gap. And we work as brokers and middlemen for a lot of big sales. Through the pandemic, I was here basically during the lockdown. I was the only one here in my office keeping the business going. And it helped me to get back to basics, which was, for me, getting on the phone and selling. And I can tell you that we actually saw an uptick year to date, April 2019 to 2020. We were up, I think, about 25–30% in sales on April 2020 compared to 2019. And it was it's quite thrilling for me to see this type of change in an increase. And not to pat myself on the back, but I was doing a lot of this, and I really love it. Ask anybody, doesn't matter for me. You give me an opportunity to try to sell something, I love this. I want to try to make that deal happen. And it's just something I don't know. I guess it's the challenge of the situation that I really love, trying to make a deal happen. I love a challenge. It's just so much fun for me. It goes hand in hand with my passion for comic books and artwork, collectibles of all sorts. It's just it's something I feel really fortunate and blessed to be able to do every day. Not everybody has the ability to pursue their passions. And whenever I even go to talks at career days at schools, some of my friends became teachers, principals, so I'll go there and I'll talk to the kids, and I try to really tell them, say, make sure you're doing something that you're excited about, that you're passionate about, that's fun for you. The money will come later, or maybe it won't, but you'll be doing something that makes you happy, rather than doing something that you're miserable doing every day. You don't want to be in that life. You want to be doing something that you can have a smile on your face. Even though every business, I'm sure, Bill, you can attest this, has its ups and downs and hardships, and not everything is all fun and games in comic books and comic art. But at least at the end of the day, you do have something you're very passionate and excited about. Look, I've been doing this since I was a kid, and I feel as much excitement and passion about it that I did when I was 15, 16, maybe even more. because I have so much more, so many more experiences and so much more appreciation for the art form and also the business end of it. It just makes me really happy. I can't stress that enough. And I think it's also one of the reasons I also want to get this across to people is because when you're looking for somebody or a company or a person to represent you in the marketplace, you want somebody out there who can talk the talk, walk the walk, and is as passionate about it as you are, maybe even more so. That's the person you want representing your art, your collectibles. And I can't stress that enough. You don't want a guy who's I really like comic art. You don't want that. You want somebody who's excited and has got a lot of energy and knowledge.
No, I agree. I mean, that's that's how you're going to get your buyers interested. You're going to get people to be gassed about wanting to see what you're going to be bringing to auction. So no, I'm totally there with you. And I've been doing CAF for almost 20 years now. So I've had lots of ups and downs. And right before COVID hit, I was at a low point. I was starting to think, oh man, I might need to start looking for a job because I'm just not excited anymore. And then COVID hit and kind of everything changed, and I've been happier than I've ever been in the 20 years that I've been working on CAF. And, and like you, seeing similar success. I mean, everybody's turning to marketing online. So I've been doing a lot more, advertising and promotion and different stuff for people that I would never even conceived of doing before.
That's great. That's great to hear. Fantastic.
But now it reminds me, you had the prior event auction happened during COVID, right? So, I mean, that had to have been really challenging for you guys if you couldn't be going into the office, right?
Yeah. So I have an amazing staff. Everybody was very diligent about working remotely. I was in the office. We have a very large space, and basically we were able to keep things rolling along. If I'm not mistaken, the lockdown ended right around the time that our auction ended, and we were able to people were very understanding, but we were able to get the orders out in a somewhat timely fashion. It was not the easiest time. I got to say that there was a period I was really nervous about what was going on, probably in the middle of March when everything really started. I mean, there were days I'd get home and I'd watch the news and I was afraid that I had touched something and I was literally going to die. And I'd sit on the couch with a lot of anxiety because I was one of the only people out in the streets of Manhattan. Now, anybody who's ever been to Manhattan, there's never a time when you're the only person on a street in Manhattan, or very seldom. 9/11 was probably the only other time I remember being in the city and it being like a ghost town. Having said that, there were days where I started cycling. That's become one of my new passions as well. I would stop taking the trains and I would cycle to work every day, and all I would see were cops, military, and sadly homeless people, and on the streets, and it was really weird. I was basically running to the bank, running to the post office, taking care of the shipments, you name it, running to FedEx. I was on a bike delivering packages over to FedEx, get a big bag slung over my shoulder because they wouldn't come to our offices, and they wouldn't deliver to our offices. So I had to go to the FedEx every day to pick up packages, and it was something that really reminded me a lot of my early days being a one-man operation, and it made me remember those times, the good and the bad of those times, and it also makes you really appreciate the people that you have working with you and for you, and the teamwork and camaraderie that we were able to maintain throughout a really difficult period. Especially, I mean, everybody had a tough time, but New York was and still is a little bit. It's just not the city it was, and during the lockdown, it was bizarre. I mean, I was able to ride a bicycle down the middle of 7th Avenue during rush hour. That's like an impossible sentence to say, other than when the lockdown was happening. There were no cars around. It's craziness. It was a really, really strange period. I'm glad it's over. I hope they don't bring back a lockdown because I think it would be very detrimental to many businesses, especially the hotels, and restaurants. I mean, it's such a shame. The restaurants, I don't even know how they're making it right now. It is really, really crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I look at that now, and there's the businesses are hurting here in Ohio as well. I mean, I don't know how restaurants and, like you said, hotels as well. I've got some friends who are in the hotel business whom I haven't spoken to since this whole thing started, but I've been really concerned about them because, you know, that was their career and they've been in it for 15, 20 years. Yeah, it's definitely tragic. That's for sure. So, you know, so back to original art then. So when did, you know, we know you have a great collection. We're going to look at a few pieces, but when did you first, you know, you're going through comics and dealing comics, but when did you get turned on to art as something to collect?
All right, so I have two distinctly different memories. The first piece of artwork I ever bought was in a comic book collection, and it was a piece I actually have on my walls up above. It's a John Romita sketch of Spider-Man, penciled and inked, and it's I think I bought it in the early 90s. So that's the first piece of art I bought. The second piece I ever bought was a sketch by Marshall Rogers of Batman. And I was at the Chicago Comic-Con, and it was, I believe, July 4th weekend, as it was normally back then. And I think this was 1994. And I think I bought it for $40. And I just thought it was beautiful. And I'll never forget the day I bought it. And I have it also framed on my wall. It's not one of my more valuable pieces, but tremendous sentimental value. But a few years ago, I'm on the phone with a buddy of mine, and he asks me, what's the first piece of art you ever bought? And the Batman came to mind. And he says, the Batman Marshall Rogers I bought at Chicago Comic-Con. And he went, oh my God, I sold that to you. And I didn't know him very well at the time. It was the first time we'd ever met. But sure enough, I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, that was you. Holy crap. And he said, I still regret selling that piece. And that is mind-boggling. Because, you know, it's a Marshall Rogers sketch, and it just did have sentimental value for him as well. His name is Lance Washington. Many comic collectors know who he is. He's a great guy, one of my favorite people in the hobby. And thanks again, Lance, for selling me that great Marshall Rogers piece. It is one of my prized possessions in my collection.
That's fantastic.
So I also, to answer your question a little bit more, I was exposed to original art a lot more by being at our original offices on 18th and Broadway. Anybody who's visited those offices will remember we had really high ceilings and just gorgeously framed artwork on display, and it was everywhere. In fact, our bathroom became like a very big thing.
Right.
Our bathroom at the time had $500,000 worth of art in it, and I'd probably say that artwork today is probably worth probably 1.5 million, maybe $2 million. But yeah, people used to dig our bathrooms because we'd have like a Marvel Mystery page by Everett. We'd have multiple Journey into Mystery 83 pages in there, Silver Age Batman covers, and it was just such a cool thing to have on display. So I got really turned on to art through Steve, and he was very reluctant to get into the original art market because it was something for him that was an escape from the business of buying and selling comic books, which I really understood, but I also realized that we were missing out on a tremendous part of the market, and one that I saw a lot of opportunity in for growth, and I pushed and pushed and pushed, and eventually got us into the comic art market. And also, you know, with ComicConnect as well. And then later on in 2014, when we established a Metropolis gallery, we've had so many great shows. Hildebrand show, the Frazetta show, of course, and John Cassidy, Simona Bianchi. Gosh, I know I'm forgetting a few, but oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh, J. Scott Campbell, which was unbelievable. There you go. Yeah. And what a great guy. He sat in my office and drew a sketch for me. I think he probably took like an hour and a half, and I didn't expect anything like it. And it is just gorgeous, and I just love his art. And he and his wife, really fantastic people. And the president of his company, Marilyn. That's the black cat piece he did. That's right. Marilyn was such a pleasure to work with. I mean, what an incredible person. She flew into New York. We spent the day together and sat and priced every single piece. And what was really important to Scott and to Marilyn was we wanted to have pieces there that were at every different price point. So we had these fantastic even thumbnails and sketches that he did that you could buy for, you know, a couple of $100 to $1,000, and then of course his covers. And we crushed it. Well, I think we did well over $250,000 worth in sales. Maybe we topped 300,000 because we sold the Batman 50. That was 55,000. We sold I think the Captain America was 9 covers. We sold I think for 20,000, and we just sold so many different pieces in that sale. It was one of my favorites, and there were so many favorites. The Masters of Fantasy was an ensemble show where we had everybody from Neil Adams to Jeff Jones to Barry Windsor Smith to Bernie Wrightson to the Hildebrands to Mark Texiera. So many different artists represented in that show. It was incredible. Yeah, I feel really, if my career ended tomorrow, I would feel incredibly blessed with what I've experienced, the people I've gotten to meet. It's just more than I ever thought, and it's been like I got the icing on the cake and the cherry on top of that. That's been for years, and everything now is just gravy. It's something that you know, it makes me really, really genuinely happy. And I probably have said that 100 times since we got on, but yeah, it's important. It's important to know that and to feel that inside, to know that, you know, you should be grateful for what you have in your life and what you've been able to do, and look forward to other challenges. Like I look back, I'm looking forward to 2021. I want to see what other things we're going to be able to do, what other heights, how much bigger we're going to grow the art market, the video game market, even the comic book market, which we're crushing. But you know, we still, there's so many things we want to do. I've been part of art exhibits around the world. I've done conventions. I was the first American comic art dealer and comic art dealer in Saudi Arabia. I was the first vintage guy, I believe, from America in the UAE. I've been to conventions in Italy. I've been to conventions in England. I hope to get to more conventions around the world once that picks up. Obviously, been to Canada. I'd love to go to Brazil. I hear the convention there is unbelievable. I know there's a big convention in Indonesia, the Philippines, Australia. I mean, these would be so much fun to go and do. I can't wait.
Well, it might not be in 2021 though. Just with the way everything's doing with COVID.
I think that any promoter that thinks they're doing conventions, big ones in 2021, is mistaken. I think we're going to need another year.
All right, I think so too. And I know that show in Sao Paulo, they just had that online the weekend before last. That's CCXP, and that's the largest show on Earth as far as a comic convention attendance goes. And they put a lot of money into doing it, and it was a really good online show. And I can't imagine that they're going to be able to have it in person again next year. So they now have a platform that they can recycle and use again in 2021. So that's my feeling. Big shows, we're not going to see them until 2022, probably.
Yeah. Let's hope the vaccine comes around and it kicks ass the way we're hoping it will, and people put on their masks when they need to. I can't tell you guys. You know, a lot of people still have certain misgivings about what's going on in this country, and I think it's a shame. This is a real scary situation. I have a hospital around the corner from me. I live in Greenwich Village, and there was a refrigerated trailer filled with dead bodies because the morgues ran out of space. This is a fact. This is not me making something up. I walked past it a lot, and it really freaked me out. I know people who have died from this. I know people who have gotten very sick from this, who are sitting on their bed with a fever for 2 weeks, writing out their will. We've got to, be smart and be safe, and hopefully this is over sooner than later.
Yeah, no, I certainly hope so too. I've been fortunate not to have anybody, that I know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get preachy, but
No, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, at least it's made people think about those things. Like my wife and I were just talking about, signing the HIPAA papers so that if you get admitted to the hospital or whatnot, that your wife or your kids can come in and get information about what's going on with you, which we would never have thought of doing before. But we were just talking about it today. My daughter's going to go to school out of state maybe next year because she'll be in a different state. And these things are state based. You have to think about, well, what do we need to have in place so that if something were to happen to her there, that we could go down and see her. So no, I mean, it's been very eye opening. In a lot of respects, things that that I would never have considered thinking about. It's definitely been very challenging. But yeah, Jason says the Javits was a hospital too. It's true. It's very true.
And I think in Central Park they had stations, tents. It was really, really bad. Yeah. No,
New York, Manhattan certainly had it worse than any place at the height of the pandemic. I mean, we're kind of coming back to that now, and it's kind of everywhere. Ohio, where I've been, we basically had almost, I wouldn't say we had nothing, but it was very low. It wasn't the epicenter of things. But now, we're in the top 6 of states that are getting it on a daily basis increase. So no, it's real. I know a lot of people don't think it's real, but it's quite the thing. So speaking of the gallery, I did want to mention that you're and trying different things during COVID. I know that you're doing the Sean Murphy show either in January or February. Micah mentioned that on Monday, and he said that you're going to be doing something online as a component to it because you probably can't have like a grand opening or those sorts of things.
We're going to have a virtual gallery opening for the Sean Murphy show. I think we might even be doing something with you, Bill. I'm not sure.
I hope so. I told him I'd be available.
Yeah, we're going to try it. We're going to set up a part of our gallery with a number of pieces. We'll have everything online. We'll also be going through portfolios, and people can buy stuff immediately or call in, and we can talk about pricing. And I think it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think Sean's going to be available for an interview as well, so that could be really great. I got to tell you, I envy Bill that you're able to do these interviews. I can't tell you, like even yesterday, somebody emailed me telling me how much they enjoyed Comic Zone, and I would love to be able to go back to doing interviews like that, and I just simply don't have a lot of time anymore. And when I did those interviews, there's a lot of research that goes into these things. You don't just come on and just start asking questions willy-nilly. I would research the guests. I would make sure I was asking questions I knew people wanted to know the answers to, and also questions that nobody else had ever asked, and trying to balance it out like that. And it is such a rewarding thing to be able to do that, to be able to hold on to these things and have them up online for posterity and for people to enjoy for generations. When I started doing Comics on Radio, I didn't make any money off of it. The way it happened was there was an online radio show called World Talk Radio, and they called me up one day and said, "Hey, we hear you're a comic book dealer, and would you like to be? Have you ever thought about being a host of a radio show?" And I said, "I have no idea how to do that." And they said, "Don't worry, we'll give you some pointers, and let's try it." And we tried it, and I loved it. It was a lot of hard work, and the technology was so shitty compared to what we have today. I mean, look what we're doing right now. But I did it for 2003 to 2008, and I was very fortunate. I did have some sponsors, including CGC and a variety of other guys, Collectibles Insurance Services. They were a sponsor, and so we were basically. I don't know. I don't think we made any money if you put in like how many hours I put into the damn thing. It was a big money loser, but that wasn't the point. That wasn't why I was doing it. I was doing it to give back to the community that had given so much to me, and it was a blast. I mean, gosh, I got to interview so many great comic artists, writers, directors, producers, actors. The list goes on and on. Comic book dealers, comic art dealers, graders from CGC. I even got to interview a news anchor named Larry Kane, who wrote a book, Ticket to Ride, about, he was the first American journalist, journalist, TV anchor person to travel with the Beatles on their first American tour. And I met him at did a book review in Manhattan, and I went up to him afterwards. I said, look, I know this doesn't have anything to do with what you do, really, other than it's pop culture. And Beatles have been in some comic books, but I would love to interview you. And he was so nice. He agreed to do the interview. And anybody who grew up in Philly knows who Larry Kane was. You know, he was a really, big part of primetime 6 o'clock news. So I had a lot of fun. I mean, Frank Miller, Neil Adams, Todd McFarlane, Stan Lee. I got to interview Stan Lee twice. I mean, what a blast. One of my favorite questions I got to ask Stan Lee is, I said, if you were walking down the street and there was an outdoor cafe, which of you, and you could sit down to lunch with any of your creations, who would it be? And he didn't quite get the question. I had to ask it again in a little different wording. And he said, oh, that's easy. It would be The Thing. And I've always thought of The Thing being Jack Kirby. So I thought that was a really beautiful answer, like that he would want to sit down with Jack. I really, I can't tell you how grateful I am to have had those opportunities. And Stanley was one of the big ones for me. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you were the first person to ever interview me too. So
in 2005. About Stanley, I had Bill Cox on before he was Bill Cox.
Yeah. I have not gone back to listen to that one. I can't imagine how it would have
sounded. I listening to my interviews, but people still seem to enjoy them, and that's really nice.
No, it was ahead of your time. You know, podcasts are, they are money makers for people these days, and you've got Spotify and people stream them all over the place. There's, you probably could monetize those today if you had the time to do it.
Yeah, there's only so many hours.
I completely get it.
Yeah.
So, do you want to look at a few pieces of art before we, call it a night? I know that of yours. I mean, out of your collection, I know we picked a few pieces.
What I could do is I could take the camera here and just show it around the room for a bit. And then if you want, we can switch over to my phone and I can walk you around the permanent collection. That would be great. I think this will be fun. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to just want to close the door so you guys get a better view of everything. Don't mind my crappy camera work, but I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a look. So this is what I call my Golden Age wall. And you got the Seven Seas piece in the top corner by Matt Baker, who, I just was tickled pink to be able to get that. You've got a Beware cover with an atomic bomb explosion and the shrunken head with the sewn eyes on the right corner. The second row, two of my favorite pieces in my collection, Famous Funnies 215 by Frank Frazetta. I wish I could get a little bit closer there, but you get there you go. Which when I bought that piece, this is one of those moments, guys, when you sit there and you say to yourself, do I save this money to put down on a house, or do I buy the Frazetta? And for literally a week, I was going, house Frazetta, house Frazetta, house Frazetta, house Frazetta. And luckily, I was smart enough to pull the trigger on the Frazetta. And it is, from many people, considered his best Buck Rogers Famous Funnies cover. I happen to love it. I love the underwater aspect of it. The detail in the octopus is absolutely astonishing. And the way her dress billows up in the water is gorgeous. And then you have on the right another masterpiece by the great Bernard Bailey, who's not an easy artist to get pieces by. And that piece is, I often call it the Atomic Ant cover. It's this guy who got turned into an ant, and he got that gorgeous skull with the dagger. It's just, oh my God, it's dripping with detail. Look at that withered tree in the background. What the hell happened? Where are we? What's going on? I just love it. Also have the cover to Speed 28. I remember one of the first Golden Age collections I bought from a friend of mine, George Copa, who I believe now works for Heritage. Great guy, George. If you're watching, thanks for turning me on to Speed 28. I bought a Speed 28 comic book. It's this one here. And it's got a giant green Nazi monster on it. And I was able to buy this cover for peanuts. And I fixed the stat. The superhero is a stat. The rest of it is all original. And the logo on the top is the trade dressing is a stat as well that I put on later. Also over here, the Catman. Now, Catman was sold in our 2017 John Burke auction. And the second it sold, I reached out to the buyer. I said, look, if you ever decide to sell this, please let me know. And a couple of months ago, a Canadian collector mentioned the piece to me in an email. And I said, hey, do you want it? And I basically took it upon myself and contacted the owner. And he said, sell it. The collector didn't want it at the time. I pulled the trigger. I bought it. It's the only known Catman cover. Sorry for my shaky camera work. I didn't realize we were back on me. It's the only known Catman cover, and I think it's just fantastic. Now, over here on this wall, you can see my Amazing Adventures cover. You know what? Maybe we should switch over to the phone. It would be a lot easier. What do you think?
Okay. Sure. You're right. It probably would be. You can get closer to the pieces.
Yeah. Let me just figure this out real quick. I'm sorry, guys. Bear with me a second. I'm a little bit of a spaz with technology. Here we go.
I think the only thing we have to worry about is that reverb.
Oh, yeah. I'll turn the phone off, the thing on the... just bear with me a second, Bill. Sorry, I should have had this ready to go.
No problem.
Reverb earlier, right? Okay, StreamYard. And I'm going to turn off the camera. Allow.
Yeah, we did some testing earlier, and
Right.
we found.
It's still a little. I'll just run with this.
Okay.
So here you have the Amazing Adventures.
Bill Everett inking Gil Kane, just absolutely spectacular. This is actually the first Starlin published cover and another Amazing Adventures cover. The Beast and the Griffin. I love the Griffin. The only thing I wonder about the Griffin is, like, where does this guy go out to eat? How does he do anything normal? You know, this guy's got a tough life. Look at this guy. I don't know what's going on there.
He's got a lot to be angry about.
Yeah, really. He really does. Here's another one of my favorite pieces of my collection. This on my calf has a lot of views. It's I think just Gil Kane at his best. I mean, look at the action. This is like art done the mighty marvel way. Look at Cap crouching. He's just bunched up. He's fighting Batroc, and it's just gorgeous. The detail, the energy in it. I love that piece. One of my favorite pieces in my collection is Knight Rider #1, the Western Knight Rider, who was the original Ghost Rider, and once again Gil Kane. I own 3 of these covers, and they're all in a row here in my gallery. This is one of my favorites. When I was a little boy, I had this shirt, Ghost Rider shirt, and this is me and my dad, and I'm wearing the Ghost Rider shirt in this picture. And I keep this, and it just reminds me of how long I've loved comic books. Here's the first piece of Silver Age art I ever bought, which is the page to Spider-Man #9, the first panel page with Electro in it. And it's gorgeous. If you look at the detail on it, I don't know if you guys can see this, but look at the lighting from the night light there, and how he did the shadows from the window. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. Let's see what else we got. This is one of the Wolverine pages I just got from the miniseries, and just thrilled to have this in my collection. Paid a very pretty penny for it, but I had to have it. I think it's one of the best pages in the book, in any of the books. And this is the first page from it. I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do best isn't very nice. It might be the first time he ever said that. I'm not sure. It's Frank Miller, Joe Rubenstein, 2 of the greats, and that is the opening salvo for the Wolverine miniseries. This is my favorite X-Men page I have. It's from 140. It's got Wolverine fighting the Wendigo. This panel right here is just spectacular. Just a great piece. Here's another piece that's one of my favorites in my collection. So when I was getting into comic books, I would drive out into Forbidden Planet with a buddy of mine, and the old Forbidden Planet, and I remember they had a wall of all the new books that came out. It was in 1987, so I was 16 years old, and this was one of the first comic books I bought. It's by Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz. Oh, which reminds me, wait, I still got one piece to show you guys, and it's gigantic. This is in the auction. Look at this thing. It's gigantic. It's Bill Sienkiewicz. It's so, as Micah put it, Sienkiewicz-y. It's got everything you want in a Sienkiewicz piece. It's the cover to Anachronisms. It's a paperback from 1988, and it really just showcases the style of Sienkiewicz. And you got a spaceship, you got this weird alien guy, you've got these outlines and abstract qualities that make Sienkiewicz so unique, and in my opinion, one of the greats of the modern era. But getting back to this comic book that I bought was The Question. I think it was number 14, if I'm not mistaken. Do you guys see that?
Yeah, that's good.
So this is Dennis Cowan, who I think is unbelievably talented. In my opinion, undervalued, underrated, and Sienkiewicz just blowing it up with these amazing inks. And this was in color. He's wearing the American flag on his face, and it just caught my eye, and that was it for me. I loved it, and it started me on collecting again. Here's a great piece. This is I'm a huge Stephen Platt fan. Anybody out there with Stephen Platt art, contact me. I want to buy it. And it's a take on obviously McFarlane. Spidey 300, and it is just gorgeous. It's dripping with detail. As I describe, Stephen Platt's art was like Spider-Man on steroids, McFarlane on steroids. And I have another piece there, and the cover to 58 there. And I like Sam Keith as well. There's a Sam Keith piece. Gosh, I could go on for days. I own the cover to Black Panther #1. If you guys can see that. Bought that from Mark Texiera at a Big Apple convention. I think this was 1996. And I remember he wanted $700 for it. I said, "Hey, Mark, how you doing? What do you got?" And he said, "I just did this cover, Black Panther #1. I bought it for $700. And that was just a thrill for me to have it. And I also bought from one of our art gallery exhibits, the Space Punisher. And I also have a Ghost Rider cover, which I'm a huge fan of Mark's work. I think Mark is also one of the greats in our hobby. Let's see what else I got. This is kind of neat. I also love Andy Warhol. This is an Andy Warhol photograph of Dennis Hopper, and this is Bruce Lee.
Oh, we just lost him on the stream there. I'm going to pull him up on the other one so we can hear me. I think he might have. Here we go. There we go.
This is Bruce Lee's only signed movie contract. And that's from 1971. It's a 3-picture deal. He was getting paid $20,000 a film. And that's one of my prized possessions as well. I'll take you for a quick, here's some just fun stuff. There's a picture of me and Stan Lee and some of my cool stuff that I have fun with. And, I really try to enjoy this stuff. Hey,
Vincent, I did want to ask you, or I should tell you this. You have always sent me a bottle of wine. I've never thanked you for that. For the last number of years. I cherish these. I put a couple beside my desk this evening.
I can barely hear you for some reason, but I'm glad you like the wine. That's great. I'm going to take you guys for a quick walk through the gallery. Here's a page this is the permanent exhibit. There's a page from X-Men #1. This is our permanent gallery. There's a long hallway filled with artwork, as you can see. And right now we just got a massive collection of comics in, so we've got comics there as well. Hold on a second. I'll start on over here. Here is a page from Journey into Mystery 83, first Thor. Here's another one. And here's one more. Now these are all my partners, and I'm very jealous of him. This is pretty awesome. And above it, right there, is a page from Avengers #1, and right here is a page by Everett from Daredevil #1.
Oh my gosh!
So a lot of firsts. And here's the first by Sal Buscema, I believe, the first Sunfire. Here's a Romita Spider-Man cover. Here's the cover to Spider-Man 301. Here's the Steranko
Oh man.
cover. Here's another McFarlane cover, which I love. Here's John Byrne on Spider-Man, Kingpin and Hobgoblin. And here's one of my favorite covers from my collection. This is Incredible Hulk 314. He's got all his arch enemies by John Byrne, just gorgeous. Here's a cover to Ghost Rider #1, Gil Kane, Marvel Team Up #1.
Wow.
X-Men Days of Future Past, but that's a recreation. Still very cool. Here's a Matt Fox Chilling Tales, one of my favorite covers. To me, I whenever I see this, I think of Hieronymus Bosch. It's just such a cool piece. Here's a really amazing, very rare Marvel mystery page by Bill Everett, Submariner. Cover to Detective 30. Cover to Detective 28, Second Batman. And yes, every day I get to walk down these halls and see this stuff, and it's not lost on me. I'm just like, wow, how did I get here? This is so cool. Here's the first Ego, the Living Planet. What I love about this is I love Kirby collage, and I think this is just a gorgeous example of it. Here's Bernie Wrightson on House of Secrets.
Holy man, that's beautiful.
Yeah, Mike Kaluta. Can you see that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here you go, Carmen.
Wow.
Kid Flash over here. Matt Baker. Here's another Wrightson. Oh, here's a Kirby FF. Galactus and Silver Surfer. There's a supervillain team up with Red Skull, Cap, and Doctor Doom. And here's probably one of the most important pieces in our permanent collection is the cover to House of Secrets 92.
Wow, that's amazing. I'd love to see that in person.
You will one day.
I will.
Frazetta, if you like Frazetta oil paintings. Joe Kubert. Try to have a representation of all the greats. Russ Heath. Kirby on FF. This is Bill Everett's last splash he ever drew. He unfortunately passed away, and a bunch of artists got together and drew the rest of the comic book. But it is just masterfully done and gorgeous. Here's one of my favorite pieces in the permanent collection is Captain Atom by Ditko. And what I love about this is the coins look like they're three-dimensional, like they're coming off the comic book and out at you. And I just think that's such a difficult thing to capture and be able to represent in art. And Ditko is just one of the masters. Here's a cool Neil Adams. First Man Thing by Gray Morrow.
Wow.
First appearance of the Watcher. You can see that. Cool Secret Origins by Nick Cardy with the Spectre. Here's a Human Torch. And one of my favorite covers is by Jack Davis. What I love about this piece is there's so much detail in this. It's dripping with detail. All the straps and belts and buckles. It is just gorgeous. And a lot of that is lost when it was published. You don't really see a lot of it as easily. And it's just stunning. We also have some great pieces over here. Kirby pinup, Cyclops, Russ Heath horror, Men's Adventures, Astonishing. Some great DC stuff. Here's a 2-page story by Frank Frazetta called Cindy is Saved, which I just had to have and I absolutely love. It's from the Doc Dave Winowitz collection, which I brought to market through Profiles in History. That was a massive collection of art. Really, really fantastic. I got to go out to Doc Dave's house in Las Vegas and sit and look at all of his Frazetta art, and it was an experience to say the least. Just fantastic. A lot of great pieces, and I'll show you a little bit more. I hope I'm not boring anybody. Oh, this is a really cool piece I have. It's from Frankenstein Alive by Bernie Wrightson. It's a double-page spread, and it is just gorgeous, dripping with detail. So incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, you're not boring anybody. We're loving it.
Does anybody have any questions at all?
No, just everybody's giving OMGs because they're in awe of the hallway. Rich Danny said that's a very valuable hallway.
So I remember I read Watchmen, and the year that the movie was coming out, got a call from my buddy Lauren, who said he has a page, and it happened to be my favorite page from the Watchmen series. So I own this page. This is can you see this? It's the page where Dr. Manhattan puts the hydrogen insignia on his forehead. And that's like my favorite page from the whole series. And I know a lot of people like Rorschach, and I do too, but this was just such a cool moment to me. Let's see, here's a Lee Elias piece. If you look around a little bit, you'll see Bring on the Bad Guys up there with John Romita.
Oh, yeah.
L.B. Cole recreation. You've got Marvel's pages by Alex Ross, Kurt Swan, Joe Kubert, Lee Elias, uncut sheet of timely covers. That's pretty cool. I love that piece. I think it's just so great. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, there's more. Yeah. Here's a cool Starlin piece. This is kind of neat. Starlin's so popular now. It's a Warlock #6 from, I believe that's like early 90s. And you can see it's a double cover, wraparound cover. You got Thanos fighting everybody. It's really cool.
It's beautiful.
Gosh, I'm not sure what we end on, but I'm going to show you one of my favorite covers in the office. This is if my partner ever decided to sell a piece of art, this is like the one cover I would have to have, because I read this comic book probably 100 times as a little kid, and I just loved it. It's a what if. It's one of my favorite what ifs. It's what if Wolverine killed the Hulk.
Oh,
Just absolutely love that piece. And he has got a lot of great pieces, but that's one that I'd really love. Bernie writes and painted Punisher covers. Carmen Infantino with the Pied Piper, Kirby on Police Trap. Gosh, I'm sure there's something I'm missing, but we actually have more art in other parts of the office as well, but those are locked right now. Also, you know what? I'll show you really quick. Some of my pieces that haven't made it up on the wall right now. Here's a really cool piece. This is I think Romita was probably, I don't know, teenager when he did this, or maybe early 20s. This is Young Men page, and it's got basically the Invaders on it. It's pretty cool. Another piece that I really love having that I won at auction, I'll show you, is Exo Man of War #1. So I don't just collect vintage. I guess, God, this is almost 30 years now. I loved Exo Man of War. It was, to me, the perfect combination of Conan and Iron Man, and with a sci-fi blend, and just really big fan of this. And so I'm very happy to own that. Also, here's another really fun piece. So I used to love supervillain team-ups. I don't know, maybe it wasn't as good a seller, and that's why I was able to find them, I don't know what, but I have this cover. It's the first Shroud, and what I love about this, so it's got a lot of touch-ups by Romita. You can see them. Right, this is Starlin, and I love the musculature on Subby. You got Doctor Doom, the Latvian castle, the FF, and the Shroud. I mean, it's pretty great. One of the pieces I really love in my collection. And here's a really gorgeous Conan page with a cover, and Conan and Belit, Gil Kane and Ernie Chan, and another great piece. And here's another one. This is my one of my favorites as well. I probably said that 100 times by now, but this is Subby 48, Gil Kane, Bill Everett, and once again it has that 3D effect. And what I love is you can totally see Bill Everett's work. That's a Bill Everett Submariner. It's Gil Kane, but that's Bill Everett, and it's just so cool. Yeah.
Dang, that's a nice one.
Yeah, and a couple of other Ditkos here. I got these a long time ago. I remember I only wanted one, and I got two, and I said, screw it, I'll keep it. It's great. And this is that Romita, the first piece of art I ever bought. This Romita here.
See that everybody starts somewhere, right? That's your first piece. That's great.
Yeah, and this is a really beautiful Stephen Platt splash with Spider-Man. Two of my only recreations. Astonishing 31. I had Ed Hannigan on my show, Comic Zone, and afterwards I asked him if he'd do a recreation. We couldn't get Bernie Wrightson to ink it, so Ed Hannigan aped Wrightson's style and did it perfectly. And I love Deathlock, and I think that's really cool. And I love the original Guardians of the Galaxy. If you ask me, like, one of my favorite comic books ever, it's Marvel 2-in-1 number 5. And I always thought Sal Buscema did it, and then I found out it was John, but obviously John's been gone a long time, so I sent it. I hired, paid Sal to do a commission of Guardians, the Marvel 2-in-1 number 5. So that's also a prized possession of mine. Gosh, I know there's something else I'd love to show you guys. Harry Houdini's handcuffs. That's kind of cool. Those are like about 100 years old. Those are Houdini's handcuffs. And here's another piece that I really love. I bought this in the mid 90s. There was a guy out on the West Coast who was redoing or doing his own versions of EC stories, but he was hiring the original artists to do drawings. And this is a Cayman piece. Can you see this?
It's hard to make out, but
is it better now?
Yeah, try to go closer if you can.
How's that?
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
So it's Cayman. Wow. I call it the honeymooners. It's basically he cut off her head and basically I think he's getting ready to put her in the fireplace. So it's very macabre, but it's a lot of fun and pretty cool. So I've had so much fun being on your show tonight, and I don't know if there's a part 2 for us to do, but hopefully we'll get to do this again real soon.
Well, like you said, we might have the gallery show in a few months, so we can do something there. Jason did actually have a question. I'm assuming you can hear me still well. That after COVID's over, I mean, do you allow people into the offices if they wanted to set up a meeting with you to maybe look at some art? I mean, how would that work?
We do actually allow people in the office now, but very limited in terms of numbers of people. We have people do come in. You have to wear a mask, and I'm happy to show somebody around with the permanent exhibit. We meet with clients regularly to buy and sell and take consignments. So that is happening. We just, can't have somebody and their whole family coming over. It's got to be like 1 or 2 people at a time. And we're very careful about it. And we keep people usually situated into only certain areas. So we try to be very, very careful about this. We care very much about the health of our employees and people who come to visit as well. So that is a possibility. You can reach out to me or to Micah, and we'll try to help you out with that.
Very good. All right. Well, hopefully, maybe next New York Comic Con, even though they probably want to have a full normal show, maybe that would be maybe like the first opportunity to, at least for me, to get over there. I'd love to see the place.
I think you need to come to town, Bill.
I do. New
York Comic Con is a blast, and that's a great place to pick up affordable art as well as some Grail pieces. And you're in the greatest city in the world. Hopefully, it'll be back to that in the next year or two. It's a tough time, but one of the great things is what I've really enjoyed is the camaraderie and friendship and bonds that comic art collectors and comic collectors have, and the enthusiasm and kindness that you see in social media that is not there for politics. It's not there for a lot of things, but we all, even if we have different opinions and stuff, we all kind of stick together, and we're all very enthusiastic and supportive of one another. And I think that's really important, and it shows the true nature and the heart of what we as collectors, we have, what we're made of. Not everybody loves every style of art or every artist or every comic book, but when you see somebody who's proud of something that they post, you give them a like, and you tell them how cool it is, and you can find the beauty in every piece, regardless of the value or what it is. I've seen guys who post their 5 sketches that they had done, and they're great. I see guys who have turned me on to artists I didn't even know existed. It's it's really fun, and it's been great to be a part of. Sometimes I'm very enthusiastic to jump into the conversations, and other times I like to just sit back and read, depending on what they're talking about. But it's great, and please, feel free if you see me online. If you have a question, you can message me. I'm very approachable, and I definitely love talking to people about comics and art, whether it's a super expensive piece or if it's a $50 piece. Oh wait, I've just walked into another part of the art gallery, and this is kind of the belly of the beast here. I'll show you a couple more pieces before we go. Right. So here's another Bernie Wright's, and probably his best Swamp Thing cover.
Boy, that's amazing. Yeah, you're killing me.
That's in our kitchen, by the way. There's a King Kong preliminary, some World's Finest. Oh, it's a Strange Adventures 205, the first Dead Man. Right over here. Hold on a second. Right over here. It's a little crooked right now, but it's the first Jonah Hex. First Jonah Hex, and then 13 and 14. There's the first Captain Boomerang. Got a couple of more things I could show you.
But there's no artwork in the bathroom anymore. That's the one. No, I had that question for you. So
yeah, I'm sorry. We really mucked it up. Here's a Captain Marvel, Lady Joker, Price Guide prelim by Bill Ward. Mm-hmm. Saddle Romances, Men of War, Golden Age Joe Kubert, Hawkman page, Green Hornet, Jack Davis on Impact, War Against Crime. Oh, here's the first a horror comic book from EC, Crime Patrol number 15, starting a new trend in comics. Yeah, Flash, Kurt Swan. Here's our Guinness World Record for the Action number 1, 3.2 million. Oh, let's see. Here's Neil Adams. Steve's a big Neil Adams fan. I think that's Wally Wood up there, yeah? Or no, sorry, Al Williamson. And behind us, another Johnny Craig Vault cover. We got so much cool stuff. And here's some stuff that didn't quite make it on the wall. There's our Conan cover by Michael Golden. Flash. Joe Kubert on Star Spangled War Stories. Let's see if there's anything else here. Kurt Swan. There's just a Philip Tan Wonder Woman. Here's a really cool Schomburg Green Hornet cover.
Oh, that's nice.
And let's see, anything else? Yeah, that's kind of some of the cool stuff there. And I didn't even open my portfolios. Maybe the next time I'll open the portfolios and my sketchbook. And yeah, who knows? Maybe we can coax Steve to do an interview sometime. That would be fun.
Steve was actually right in this very room. So I think sitting right about right here.
Really?
Yeah, Ben. With Ben, right? Was that his name?
Right.
Yeah, it was probably 15 years. It was a while. It was definitely 14 years ago, where they were in the area and they knew I was here, and so we hung out for a couple hours and chatted. And that's the only time I've ever talked to him.
Wow. Well, maybe we'll try to change that.
That would be good.
One last thing I want to show you for all the rock and roll lovers out there. I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan, and in 2007 I got to go to their reunion concert, which was the Amit Ertegun, who is the head of the music studio, record studio, and I took this picture of Led Zeppelin with Bonham's son, Jason Bonham, playing, and those are my tickets and wristband, and so that was one of my most for me thrilling moments. I remember walking around Piccadilly the next day, going, "Oh my God, I just saw God. I saw God last night. Well, rock God." and
Mhm.
it was a great experience. So I think on my way home tonight, I'm gonna listen to a little bit of Led Zeppelin. Again, Bill, thanks so much, and thanks for letting me run way over time.
No, this has been great, Vincent. It really has been. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm sure everybody else has too.
I could talk about this stuff for days, man. My voice is starting to get hoarse. I'm talking so much.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't have a bottle of water handy. I'm sorry. I should have. That's
No,
like
I actually
a
I did a
Oh,
little bit of tea.
okay, good.
Now I do it. All right, but thank you so much, and also thank you so much for making Comic Art Fans, because it's such a great place for all the fans and art collectors and dealers to come into one place and again to share that camaraderie. It's really a blessing. Thanks.
Thank you, Vincent. I appreciate it. And again, thanks for staying late at the office. I hope you have a safe trip home. We will do this again. And thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. And have a great night.